Okay, so I just got done watching Death of Me, and I've seen some weird ass horror in my life, and this crosses the board as being one of the worst for me. Like, this is a really bad movie, and this is directed by Darren and Bousman. He's a director I really admire, and I really like his films. He did my favorite Saw films, Saw 2, 3, and 4. Um, but in the recent years, he has been really hit or miss. He's more hit for me than miss, but especially in the past, like 4 or 5 years, he's made some really odd choices in his career. Like he did Saint Agatha, which I don't think that is a bad movie. It's just his direction didn't really shine in that movie all that much. And then he's doing Death of Me, which this film I believe was only straight to video. I don't think it went to any theaters. And it definitely proves like the quality of the film is okay. Like the production value that we're seeing in the film like is good. The acting like will probably get a pass from me. Like this film has a lot of talent behind it. It has Mag Q and Luke Hemsworth in it, and it has Darren Bousman behind the camera, directing the film that we're seeing. So I had a lot of high hopes for this movie. I've seen this movie twice over the past few years. I watched it a few years back when it came out, and now I rewatched it tonight. And the first time I watched it, I mean, it was okay enough to the point I could give it a positive review. But rewatching it tonight, this is a really bad movie. Like this is definitely one of the more weaker points in his career. And there are people out there that like this movie. And like I'm not hating on this movie. I'm just looking at his filmography as a whole, and this is definitely one of the films that it feels like he wasn't sure on the type of movie he wanted to make. Like the film, it's written as a really odd and bizarre experience for the viewer. Like he's definitely trying to make the viewer feel uncomfortable watching his film. But then at the end, it all comes down to how it's executed, and the execution in this film is not good at all. Like I have nothing against weird and odd and bizarre horror films. Like Midsummer is a perfect example of that. Like that is a film that's odd, but in execution it works. And like the odd feeling that you have watching that movie, it works because the execution works. This is a film that is the exact opposite. It's a film that tries to make you feel odd, but the execution doesn't work, which lacks which lacks in the presentation of the film. But anyways, yeah, let's get into some of the reasons for why I didn't like this movie. But yeah, as I said, the production value, like it's a really good looking movie. It's a colorful movie. I like the use of color in the film. I like the color contrast and the color scheme throughout the film. I think it changes pretty well, and I think it fits. I think it adds to the experience that he's trying to create for the viewer. I think there's some cool, I guess, like designs throughout the film, of people's faces, stitched together, and all that, which I thought that was pretty gnarly looking for the most part. Um, um, I'm trying to think out what else I like in the movie, and there's really not much. That's really the maximum amount of positives I can, give to this movie. But anyways, yeah, let's jump right into the negatives. Being my first negative being the music in this movie. This didn't annoy me the first time watching it, but this time it annoyed the shit out of me. This film plays its main theme throughout majority of the movie. At least a good 90% of the soundtrack of this film is covered by that main theme that you're hearing, and it gets so annoying. Like the first time you hear it, it's okay, it works, but then when you continuously hear it every 10 minutes, it gets annoying. And like this film's very short; it's like 90 minutes, I think, and just so much of this soundtrack is played, with this main theme, and it gets so annoying. By the third time, I was just sick of it, and every time it came on, I was just rolling my eyes, because like to me that is just lazy composing, that you're playing like the same composed music on repeat throughout the film, when it's not really selling a purpose to the movie. Like there are, other composed music throughout the film, but like that's the one that you hear the most, and to me, it was just painful. It was painful listening to it. Like, I mean, it works well, for it works well for the movie that is being presented to us. It works well, it plays well, but when you're hearing it on repeat, it's annoying. The editing. The editing is a big problem with this movie, because this film doesn't make sense. This film doesn't make sense. Like, I can tell you what this film's about, but then where it leads to, I can't explain. I literally cannot explain what this movie is about in detail. If I was to give you a plot summary of this film, I would say, a couple, they go to this island to have a fun, to go on vacation. They some waitress or bartender drugs them. They pass out. Weird shit happens. That's literally how I would pitch the plot of this movie to you, because then everything else after the opening scene makes no sense, because there's a whole bunch of different sequences that are just shown that have no context to the story being told, and that have no context just at all to the film. And there's this, okay, I understand this film, it's supposed to be bizarre, it's supposed to be odd, it's supposed to make you feel uncomfortable. Like, having just a series of sequences that don't really tie in together to bring you a proper, like, fully fleshed out story. Like, there is no excuse for that. There's no excuse for this film to have, certain sequences in it, because you see a lot of like rinse and repeat of the same scene, and it's just there, and then we cut back to, what's happening, and then we see that same scene later on, and it's like it's an extended version of what we previously saw, and it has no purpose. Like the final 45 minutes of this movie is a great example of that, because the last 45 minutes of this movie has some of the worst editing like I have seen. I've seen, like, in his films, in Darren Bousman's career. This is some of the worst editing, because it's so mind-numbing that you can't follow what's happening. And then of course the execution of this movie is, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense, like, where this film ends. Like, it kind of ends with a sequel setup, but it's a sequel I don't want to see, because everything that came before it was a bore fest. That's what this movie is. It is boring, and it's so mind-numbing that you don't care. You don't care about anything that's happening. And this film has terrible characterization as well. The characters in this, Maggie Q's character and Luke Hemsworth's character are terrible. There is no characterization given to them, and all of this runtime is dedicated to them. It makes no sense to me why write a film and not have good characters when they're the characters we're going to be watching and they're the characters that this event is happening to? Like, why the fuck would you not write likable characters instead of presenting shitty ass nobodies to us? Yeah, like, yeah, this film really disappointed me. The ending just didn't do anything for me. I don't want to see a sequel. Like, it makes no sense. Like, I can see the ambition behind what he's trying to do here, but it doesn't work. Like, the ending, it kind of, like, there's an okay concept behind it, and I think there's a unique concept in this film, but I just don't feel like it's executed to its full potential. And with someone like Darren Bousman, behind the camera, directing this film, and him crafting, this story for his audience, I expected like a better film from him. But yeah, this is just a very meh movie. This isn't this. Yeah, like, I was really disappointed with this movie. Like, upon watching it this time, I like. Yeah, it disappointed me. It's just coming from the guy who did my favorite Saw sequels, um, and he's doing a new film this year with Tobin Bell again and Jeremy Irons, which I'm looking forward to seeing that. I'm looking forward to seeing where his career goes, but this was just a low point for him. And yeah, I'm not going to talk anymore about Death of Me. If you have seen Death of Me, let me know down in the comments what you think of it. Yeah, that's what I have to say. Alright, bye.